Hello students, today I'm going to explain you Introduction to ER Diagram. The full form of ER diagram is Entity Relationship Diagram. Here, first we will discuss what ER diagram is. ER diagram or entity relationship diagram is a conceptual model that gives the graphical representation of the logical structure of the database. It means in this tables of our database is graphically represented. It shows all the constraint and relationship that exist among different components, that are different relationship or different entities. Here we have components of ER diagram. We have basically three components in our ER diagram. First one is our entity set, second one is our attribute, and third one is our relationship set. First, we'll discuss what entity and entity set is. First, I'm going to explain you what entity is. See, any real world object that exists in a real world is known as entity. If I say a student, yes, it exists in real world, it is an entity. If I say a fan, yes, it exists in a real world, it is an entity. If I say a mobile phone, yes, it exists in real world, then I can say, yes, this is my entity. Now, what is entity set? So, a entity set is group of similar kind of entities. What it means by similar? Similar means all entities should be of same type. They hold same characteristics. See, if I say instructors, it means I am talking about more than one instructor. It means I am talking about 5 instructors. The roles of each and every instructor is what? To teaching students. It means they all have common characteristics, so that I can say yes, instructors are entity set. If I say students, yes, students have common characteristic. They learn from organization. They have their roll number. They have their name. They have their own classes. It means all students are in common platform. All students have common characteristics. That's why I can say yes, student entity is entity set. Clear? Next one is our attribute. Each and every entity have their attribute. Attribute means characteristics of that particular entity. Yes, if I say about student, yes, student have the characteristic. They have their own name, they have their roll number, they have their age, they have their class, they have their institutes. Yes, they all have their characteristics. If I say mobile phone have an attributes. What attributes are here? Mobile phone have color, mobile phone have brand, mobile phone can have specifications like RAM, like storage, like battery backup and all. So we can say every entity have their own attribute, and every entity's characteristics are known as attribute. If I say, for example, student as an entity, then the name, age, class, all are the attribute of that particular entity, that is student entity. Next one is a relationship set. If I say what relationship is between two or more than two entities. If I say one entity is instructor entity, I say one entity is a student entity. Instructor teaches student. It means teachers is relationship between these two entities. If I say the relationship between entity sets, then I can say relationship set. Clear? I hope I'm clear. Next, we have types of entity. We have a strong entity set, we have weak entity set. If I say a particular entity have an attribute that can uniquely identify an entity, then I will say it is a strong entity. If I say student is one of the entity, then I can say the characteristics of entity set is, or attribute of an entity set is, their roll number, their name, their age, their course, etc. If I say I can make primary key to roll number, yes, I can make. If I will make roll number attribute as in primary key, then my entity can uniquely identify the whole tuple. That's why it is your strong entity set. Weak entity set. When I don't have a sufficient attribute that can uniquely identify my tuples in a relation, then I'll say it is weak entity. If I say person is an entity, I have attributes name, address and mobile number. I cannot make anything as a primary key. So here I don't have any sufficient attribute that attribute uniquely identify my tuples in a relation. So that particular entity will be weak entity. Here representation of weak entity is double rectangle. Here representation of strong entity set is single rectangle. Is it fine? How we will represent our entity? We will represent our entity or entity set by rectangle. Next, we have number of types of attributes. Fine, we have simple attribute, we have composite attribute, we have single valued attribute, we have multi-valued attribute, we have derived attribute, and we have key attributes. First, I'll discuss simple attribute. Simple attribute are those attributes which cannot be further divided. If I say person's name, it can be divided or not? Yes, it can be divided in first name, second name, or first name, middle name, last name, right? So it is not a simple attribute because it can be divided. If I say person's age, I cannot divide it into further, then I'll say yes, it is my simple attribute. Composite attribute, next one is your composite attribute. Composite attributes are those attributes which are composed of many other simple attributes. Like if I say address, a person's address can be broken up in many simple attributes. Like we can say address can be house number, it can be a street or a colony, it can be city, it can be zip code. Yes, I can break it into many simple attributes. That's why it's my composite attribute. Next one is my single valued attribute. Single valued attribute means it contains only one value. My age can be a single valued attribute. My zip code can be a single value attribute, right? My Aadhaar number can be a single value attribute because it cannot be more than one. Fine. Next one is multi-valued attribute. Multi-valued attribute are those attributes which can take more than one value for a given entity from an entity set. If I say person's mobile number, yes, it can be more than one. If I say a person email ID, yes, it can be more than one. That's why these attributes are your multi-valued attribute. Next one is your derived attribute. Derived attribute are those attributes which can be derived from the other attribute. If I say, suppose I have a column date of birth, can I derive age of a person from date of birth? Yes, I can. So age is my derived attribute and that is deriving from other attribute, that is date of birth. Next one is key attribute. A attribute that uniquely identify my tuple in entity set is known as key attribute. Like primary key is my key attribute. Here the representation of each type of attributes. Attribute will be represented by ellipse sign. Fine. Here see, simple attribute are class or age of a person. Composite attribute can be name of a person, that can be first name, middle name and last name. Address can be street, city, country and state. Okay? So, composite attribute can be represented by this kind of symbol. Single valued attribute can be represented by single value. If I say gender, a person can have only single value, that is a male gender or a female gender. Now I have multi-valued attribute, that a particular attribute can have more than one value. which is mobile number. A person can have more than one mobile number. A person can have more than one email ID. Multi-valued attribute will be represented by double ellipse. Next one is derived attribute, an attribute that is derived from the other attribute. Here my age is deriving from date of birth. So age is my derived attribute. Here age will be represented by dashed ellipse. Next one is key attribute. Key attribute that uniquely identify my tuple in my relationship set, that is our roll number, and it will be represented by underline. Fine. I hope I am clear here. Next one is relationship set. Here we have two kind of relationship, that is strong relationship set and weak relationship set. First we will discuss about strong relationship set. Here, a strong relationship exists between two strong entities set. If my entities are strong, then my relationship will be strong. And how I can make my entity strong? By using an attribute that uniquely identify my tuple in a relationship. Fine. So, if the relationship between two strong entity set, then my relationship is strong. It will be represented by diamond symbol. Next, weak entity set. When my relationship is between strong and weak entity set, then I can say my relationship will be weak relationship set. Fine, it will be represented by double diamond sign. See, we will now discuss cardinality ratio. That is, between two or more entities, what cardinality we are maintaining. It's one-to-one relationship, it is many-to-one, it is many-to-many, or it is many-to-one relationship. There are four kinds of cardinality ratio, that is many-to-many, many-to-one, one-to-many, and one-to-one relationship. Here we will explain it. Representation, we can represent it by this kind. First we will discuss many-to-many cardinality. I have two entities set. One is student entity set and other one is course entity set. An entity in a set A can be associated with any number of entity set in B. Entity set B can be associated with any number of entity in entity set A. It means here what I wanted to explain, one student can enroll for any number of courses. It means a student can enroll for B.Tech course also, a student can enroll for M.Tech course also, or BCA course also. This is what a student can enroll for 0 courses or more than 1 course or 2 course or 3 course. It means one student can enroll for many courses and many courses can be enrolled by any number of students. It means there is no constraint between student entity set and course entity set. Student can take more than one course and course can be taken, more than one course can be taken by single student. Fine. This will shows by many to many relationship. Here I can mention M to M relationship. Next one is my many to one relationship. In this, what I wanted to say, I have entity set 1, I have entity set B, I have A entity set and B entity set. What I wanted to say, I say here relation is many and 1. Here I have 1. One student can enroll at most in one course. It means student can enroll at most for one course only, not more than one course. Next one course can be enrolled by any number of students. It means what I wanted to say, in course many students can be possible, but a student can enroll for only one course, that is many to one relationship, which we are following in our institute. That is, we have one course that is B.Tech CSE, and many students can enroll for that particular B.Tech course, but the student cannot enroll for more than one course. It means I cannot enroll my student to B.Tech and side by side MBA or side by side in BCA. Fine. So there is a constraint that one student can enroll for at most one course, but many students can be enrolled for the same one course. Next one is many to many cardinality. Sorry, many to one to many cardinality. What one to many cardinality show? It shows one student can enroll in any number of courses. It means one student can enroll for 0, 1, 2 or 3 courses. But in each course there should be at most one student, not more than one student. That this will be represented by one to many cardinality. Next one is one-to-one cardinality. It means in entity A and entity set B, both have at most one value. That is, one student can enroll for at most one course, and one course can be enrolled by at most one student. Fine. So in every course, it should be one student, and for every student, it can enroll for only one course. Fine. Now, here we are discussing about participation. Here I'm explaining you two type of participation, that is total participation, and next one is our partial participation. Total participation, what it specifies? It specifies that each entity in the entity set must be compulsorily participating in at least one relationship instance in that relationship set. That is why it is called mandatory participation. Total participation is represented by a double line between the entity set and the relationship set. Here is my entity and here is my relationship, and it is showing by double line. Here see, double line between the entity set student and relationship set enroll is signifies total participation. Means if student is enrolling in any course, then I can say it is a student entity. If I say 10 people are there, then all 10 people are my student. No, if they are enrolling, it means they are participating in this relationship, then also they person are student. So the person are the entity set student is only participating, that is enrolling for an course. Otherwise the entity set student will not consider all the student, sorry, all the person. It specifies that each student must be enrolled in one course, then the person can be student, and it is represented by double line. Here, partial participation. It specifies that each entity in the entity set may or may not be participating in the relationship instance in that relationship set. If I say student can enroll for one online course, if the particular student is not enrolling for that online course, then also it is okay, right? It is okay or not? It is okay. Then I can say partial participation. If I have, suppose, 80 students in my classes and the only 20% of student had enrolled for the online course, yeah, it is possible. Then I will denote it by partial participation, because I have 100 entity in entity set, but I have only 20 students have participated in that particular course. This is also known as optional participation. It is represented by single line. Keys. Now I will discuss keys. Key is an attribute or collection of attributes that uniquely identify an entity among entity set. Here we have three kinds of keys. First one is super key, second one is candidate key, and third one is primary key. First, from the relation, we will create super keys. We will find out all the set of super keys. From the super key we will identify candidate keys, and from the candidate keys one of key will be chosen as an primary key. What super key is? Super key is a set of attribute, one or more, that collectively identify an entity uniquely in an entity set. Fine. Next one is my candidate key. A minimal super key is called an candidate key. What minimal means? If I say by one attribute, if I can uniquely identify my tuple, then I'll not use 2. By 2, if I can uniquely identify my tuple, then I'll not use 3. This is the reason minimal super key. An entity set may have more than one candidate keys. Fine. Next one is my primary key. A primary key is one of the candidate key chosen by the database designer to uniquely identify the entity set. A database developer or designer can choose primary key from the candidate keys, and in every database one primary key will be chosen for particular relation. Now we will discuss some extended features of ER diagram, that is generalization, specialization and inheritance. What generalization is? If I say I can combine two or more entity into single one according to their common or similar characteristics, that can be your generalization. Like pigeon, sparrow and dove, all are what? Birds. It means they have those all birds have one common characteristics, that is they all are bird. So I can combine them as in bird entity. Second one is specialization. Specialization is opposite to generalization when a particular entity is subdivided into sub-entities according to their different features or function or characteristics. Then I can say it is a specialization. If I say person can be a student, person can be a teacher, right? A person can be an employee, a person can be a teacher, student, a person can be a postman. It means person have different characteristics and special. I am dividing them according to their special characteristics. That's why we will call it specialization. Next one is inheritance. Is an important feature of generalization and specialization. It allows lower level entities to inherit the attribute of a higher level attribute. It means person's name, age and gender can be inherited by student, that is a sub entity, and the all person's attribute can be inherited by teacher, that is also an sub-entity. Here I am showing an ER diagram of hospital management system. Here many of entities are there, that is active entity, that is department entity, that is medicine entity, and all are related with different relationships. Please take it as serious. Here next one example for this. This is not hospital management. Please correct it. It is a it is institute management system. Fine. I hope I am clear about this. Thank you.